What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Selena, Duessel, Knoll, and Natasha from the Book 5 banner. I'm going to be giving you guys my in-depth analysis on these units and also builds. I have covered Reginn comprehensively in a separate video, so you can find the link to that in the description down below. And sadly, I'm a few days late to this banner review because I had to make a lot of videos. So I want you all to help me defeat the Demon King known as YouTube by leaving a like. And with that said, I hope you guys do enjoy and let us begin. Duessel is a Lance Cavalier with 168 BST. We do have quite a bit of Lance Cavaliers, but you cannot make the grave mistake of dismissing him as just another Lance Cavalier because of how good he is. Usually cavalry units are not seen as the best tanks, but Duessel is an exception. He might not have access to the infantry only skills, but his stat line is just so min-maxed along with his amazing weapon that it makes him an extremely powerful unit. He comes with Obsidian Lance, which gives him +3 defense, and if he's alone then he gets -6 attack and defense debuff on the foe during the combat, and he gets an auto follow-up. So this debuff does stack up with low attack defense for a total of -9 attack and defense debuff on the foe during the combat, which they cannot avoid if Duessel is solo. And his stat spread is absolutely min-maxed to the core, with having extremely high attack of 39, with also having super boon in that, and also having high defense. His resistance is also workable and does make him a pretty nice balanced tank. His speed is extremely low and he does get shut down by null follow-up, but still he is an extremely bulky unit to face. He completely outclasses Legendary Ephraim because they both have auto follow-up, but Duessel's stat line is way more min-maxed and his weapon has got more effect than Flame Segment. Unless Legendary Ephraim gets some kind of really good weapon refine, it is looking extremely grim for him. For building up Duessel, you don't really have to do too much on budget. You could just have attack defense solo, and that's pretty much it. He can function pretty well on budget as well because of his amazing base kit, and if you want to use him with Gale Force, then you could run Heavy Blade 3 on slot A. That is a bit more cheaper than having attack defense solo on slot A, whereas you could run that as a Sacred Seal and just have Heavy Blade on slot A, so that makes it cheaper overall for many people. So he can be a fantastic Gale Force unit and much better than Legendary Ephraim, definitely because of having even better Gale Forcing capabilities due to his bulk and the fact that his weapon debuffs the foe for -6 attack, so that helps him trigger this really easily. And because of his fantastic bulk and tankiness, distant counter is no brainer on him, so that's a very good option. You could also run Heavy Blade 4, which gives you true damage, and Quicken Pulse allows you to have Gale Force at 4 cooldown, which can also let you Gale Force on ranged units. He could also be used in Ether Rage defense as a Lunge Cavalier, kinda similar to how Eliwood is used, but in my opinion Eliwood is a bit better with Blazing Durandal, as he can still double the null follow-up units because of how fast he can get. On the other hand, if a tank has got null follow-up, then Duessel is not going to be able to do his double, but regardless, he's still a pretty decent option for Gale Force Cavalier in Ether Rage defense because of how bulky he is, and he might be able to survive many times, so that will just trigger the Wings of Mercy allies, so that could always work. And if you're heavily investing into Duessel, then as I said, distant counter is absolutely no brainer, and he is extremely powerful as a +10 merged Cavalier. He's pretty much an armor unit without the poor 1 movement and without the armor exclusive skills. He is extremely tanky unit and he does have pretty good movement. If we ever get Granny's Shield as a Sacred Seal, then that is going to be pretty amazing for him because he could also avoid the cavalry effective damage. Selena is a Blue Tome Cavalier with Tome of Storms as her preferred weapon. This weapon is really good because at start of combat, if the enemy's HP is above 75%, then it pretty much gives her +5 attack and speed and also has null follow-up active. So she is pretty much gonna be a Duo Byleth that is blue and is on a horse. Now Duo Byleth in my opinion is a bit better because she can have access to the rain skills and she also has the duo skill, and all of those things do make her a bit better. But Selena herself is also a very strong unit because of this weapon. This weapon allows her to run Wind Sweep and Water Sweep and still double through those skills when the enemy cannot even counter attack back. So that is an extremely strong thing which Selena can do. Her stat spread is extremely good as well for an offensive unit with base 39 attack and base 39 speed, with both having super boons, so that is just incredible overall. Now, whenever there's a Blue Tome Cavalier, there's always going to be comparison with Reinhardt. So Reinhardt is of course easily available plus 10 merge cavalier, which a lot of people invest into, and Selena does face competition from him, but I wouldn't really say that she is gonna be in the shadows of Reinhardt or anything like that, because her role is much more unique with that null follow-up tome. With the amount of units that have skills which prevent your follow-ups, null follow-up proves to be an extremely good effect, which does have good synergy with stuff like wind and water sweep. And we have already seen what Duo Byleth can do with that. So Selena is a Blue Tome Cavalier who's pretty strong and does have a pretty unique role by having that null follow-up built into her weapon, which is pretty easy to trigger, and it also increases her already high offenses. For building her up on super budget, you could just have Desperation and Susparo's Sacred Seal. Wind Sweep is by far the best lobby skill for her because of the null follow-up on her weapon, so she will still be able to double with these sweep skills while the enemy cannot make a counter attack, which is extremely powerful. Now of course it does compete with lull speed resistance at higher investments, but Wind Sweep is just gonna be more optimal. You could also run Rouse Speed Defense on Slotsy from Ferdinand if you want to, and Heavy Blade can allow you to trigger Moonbow on the second hit, so pretty much kind of like what Reinhardt does with Cook and Pulse Moonbow, you could kind of imitate that, and her high attack and attack super boon definitely helps you with that. In Ether Raid's defense, you could also use her as a soft check to Vantage units because of how ridiculously fast she could get, and she could also annoy the hell out of any kind of tanky unit who doesn't have null counter disrupt, and ARD speed res is going to be helping her a lot because it just allows her to have plus 10 speed, and that is just incredible along with Tome of Storms and Susparo. The extra resistance she gets is going to be much appreciated in the matchups where she's going to be facing against mages like Brunny and stuff. Of course, she might not be able to do too much damage to those mages who have high resistance, but at least she's not going to get doubled and she can reduce the damage by having extra resistance. So ARD speed res is easily available, so that makes a pretty good combination on her along with Wind Sweep. Panic Smoke can also help you because you could safely apply that on the unit and the other targets. You could also run her with loud speed resistance. As I said before, it is an option, but I personally like Wind Sweep more. So if you really want to have this at max investment, then you could do that, and she would have better bulk. I'm not really the biggest fan of Life and Death, and Attack Speed Push 4 is just a better option at max investment because it doesn't really reduce your bulk and still gives you the extra offenses. And it can also work out better with loud speed resistance because her bulk is not going to be lowered, so that works out. Both attack and speed super boon are really good options, and I personally prefer speed super boon a bit more because it just allows her to have Wind Sweep triggered even against the fastest units in the entire game, and it kind of future proofs her in a sense that if we get even faster units, she will still gonna be able to trigger her Wind Sweep against them. Knoll is a free reward from the Book 5 quests, and he's going to be added into the normal summoning pool probably after the banner is over, similar to how Emryn was added because she was also introduced with a quest. Knoll is a red infantry mage with 166 BST, and he doesn't really have any kind of super boon. He comes with Rother Fox, which is a really nice inheritable option for red mages, and it's really good in the player phase because the enemy gets debuffed by -4 during the combat, so that is really good. Knoll himself can make pretty good use of this weapon. He does have high attack at 37, he does have really awkward speed at 32, but it can definitely be worked out at max investment as you'll see. Knoll overall is just a 3-star, 4-star Yuan, and he can even be compared to Hubert, so he just lacks 2 attack stat compared to Hubert at the cost of having 10 extra resistance, and compared to these 5-star locked units, Knoll is mergeable because of being available in the lower rarity, and it is not going to be anytime soon that Hubert or Yuan can get a weapon refine. He's also pretty much a red Ilyana because they have pretty identical stat spreads, but outside of the surface level similarities, Knoll in my opinion does have it a bit worse compared to Ilyana because we just have more saturation when it comes to red tomes, and because he doesn't have a preferred weapon, he's a bit less unique, and he's also prone to getting power crept in the future whenever we get an easily available unit who might have more stats than him or who's more min-maxed or might just have preferred weapon and all of the above. Overall, Knoll is a pretty decent free-to-play unit, not really too impressive and not really too bad either, so he could be a merge option when it comes to red tomes. However, he definitely needs a lot of heavy and premium investment. On budget, he doesn't really have too many options, so you could use him in Arena Assault with Axe Breaker. You could also run Triangle Adept on Slaughter if you want to, and in general, he could just be used as a green check. Fury Desperation is always going to be an option, and even at max investment, he could run that, and Fury does have good synergy with the Spectrum debuff of the Fox Tome. You could also run Sparrow and Heavy Blade with Glimmer. You can also run a very premium build with Mirror Impact, Time Pulse, and Iceberg. So Iceberg becomes a 2-turn special at the start of every turn, and he could trigger that in a single combat, and the extra resistance from his slot A is going to be making him nuke much harder. Conch Bouquet is also an option which you could run, and it does give him healing, so that could be stacked up with Mystic Boost. So if you want to have a self-sufficient Knoll, then that's always going to be an option, but overall I do prefer the Foxstorm if you just want to use him for player phase. Conch Bouquet along with solo skills does allow him to have better mixed phase. You could also run attack speed push 4 and lull speed resistance, so that can definitely make him hit much harder, and route speed defense from Ferdinand is always going to be an option. In Aether Raid's offense, he could be used as a close counter vantage unit because of his high attack stat, but Blade Tomes have it pretty bad these days, as in Aether Raids we do have a lot of panic structures. Thankfully Knoll does have pretty high HP, so that is really good, but still the presence of lull skills are going to be extremely annoying for him. Still an option nonetheless. You could also run him as a Cavline counter with Triangle Adept and Null Counter Disrupt, along with a Raven Tome. So he does hit pretty hard, and that can allow you to take on even high investment Cav lines, so that is really good. If you want to invest into him even more for Aether Raids, then he could run a fast Raven Tome build by having a tier 3 stand skill that can boost his speed. So he can actually get pretty fast at max investment, and that's why plus speed IV, which you have been seeing on these max investment builds, is gonna be the optimal IV in my personal opinion. For utilizing his high resistance, you could also run a Serpent Tome, but unfortunately this is going to be a 5-star locked weapon, but if you do manage to get it, then you can run it with Distant Defense 4 and pretty much make him have Iceberg Retaliations, which will do a lot of damage. He can also be used in Aether Raid's defense. He will have pretty high HP, so he'll be harder to pulse down, but if your frontliner with high HP can pulse him down, then he can have a pre-charged Iceberg, and he can be decently fast with the ARD speed res with a very powerful Iceberg. Natasha is a 4-star focus unit of this banner, and she's an infantry healer with 165 BST. She does have pretty high attack stat for a healer at base 36, but she's just another healer that we have got in the recent months. She could be compared to Lena. She's pretty much a better Lena because of having better attack and speed, and it's crazy because it's not even been like 6 months ever since Lena came out, which is just crazy. She could also be compared to Emran, who in my opinion is the best 3-star, 4-star infantry staff unit in the game right now. And she does have more attack than Emran at the cost of having less speed. She also has more resistance while Emran has got more HP. However, at max investment, Emran is going to be having more HP, more speed. So I wouldn't say that Natasha is worse than Emran, but I would say that she's basically a side grade to Emran because she will have higher resistance, and that could allow her to take less damage from AoE specials, and that also opens up the usage of stuff like Sabotage skills. And in future, if we do get Sabotage seals, then she could have a double Sabotage build as well because of her high resistance. So honestly, she's not really all that bad if you want to invest into a modern healer. The thing with a lot of these healers that we have got recently is that they have very small differences. And the thing is that we might just get a better healer in 6-7 months or even a year who will just have better stat spread, and that's just how it works in infantry staff units, it seems. So if you've invested into a staff unit already, then there's really not much you could do by investing into another one who's just slightly better, or you could also wait few months until more Gen 1 healers can get their weapon refines. By firing off this Natasha, you're not going to be getting Soul Stone, and you can only get Close Guard at 5 stars, so you'll have to spend feathers on that, and Death Knight at 4 star does have it easily available. On budget, you could just run her as a support unit with Close Guard and Distant Guard. There's really not much you could do because Absorb is not a very good weapon at all because it has got such low might and it doesn't really do too much for you. So Pain can be a decent option if you just want to use her in Arena Assault for the chip damage or just for the utility, and Attack Speed Bond also works as a slot A option. At max investment, you could run plus speed IV, and that is going to be allowing her to double more with stuff like attack speed push 4 and slot A. And you could also run a palm staff build. I personally run the same build on my Mercedes and I have great success with it. And Natasha is basically a better Mercedes, even though I am really salty to admit that. But you could definitely run this build with close file and lull attack speed. And Melancholy can be useful in something like Rooker Siege, and as I explained before, because of her higher visible resistance, she can run Sabotage skills and also Ploy skills, and if you do get a Sabotage Sacred Seal, then she could run that as well. You could use her in Ether Raid's offense as a close counter advantage sweeper with Pain Plus. Because of her high attack stats, you could definitely pull this off in a light season where you do have Bolt Tower to support you. So after you snipe of the healing tower of the enemy, you could definitely try to Vantage Sweep them with a Pain Healer. And if you want some extra support, then Duo Mikaya's Dominance is going to be a fantastic support with Natasha. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please be sure to share this video with your friends who are thinking of building any of these units. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. And if you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as disappointing as Knoll not having Leipner. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.